Hey everybody, let's go ahead and get started with our foreground right here. I've got a few tools together. Not sure how all this will work, but we're going to give it a good try. I've got the liner, the equivalent of a credit card. This is metal. I'm hoping it will scrape. I've got my boxwood. I can go that way or this way. I've got some sticks and twigs, and we're going to give those a try. In my recipes, I use burnt umber and burnt sienna to create the sand. So starting up here, I'm going to start just working downward. I've got a big brush here. It's probably a 14. And notice I'm pale in my mixture. You know, right here you can start to leave some paper and see what you think about it later. I am working upright. What I'm doing is creating the density. Okay, I'm just going to work this area, and I'll talk about that another time. This sand for me is a burnt umber with a little bit of raw sienna, and I think that works. I am going to just touch it with a little bit of permanent green #1, just a little, particularly right here. So I'm separating this plane right here. Right here. I'm separating that. It's a subtlety. I'm going to go back in up there at the top, and I'm going to try to see some of these greens. And I'm still working with this big brush. Starting to build, again, the density. Okay, so I probably do need to do that over there because what's here is going to be on top. So let me just touch this. Okay, there we go. So this is starting to dry. and I'm going to get darker. But before I do, let me go ahead and just add a little bit of permanent yellow light to my raw sienna burnt umber mixture and put it in right here. When you work upright, you really just have to create these little ditches of irrigation. There we go. I'm pretty wet at this point. I am going to leave this alone except for, again, putting in some of this brighter color, which is permanent yellow mixed with raw sienna. All this moves to the back, by the way. Okay, so I'm going to mix this with a little bit of vermilion and start to see some of these orange areas. You know, this is going to be a two-part thing. It's going to have to dry. I'm still using the larger brush. But you can see I'm starting to put that in there. This is going to get really dark. All right, I'm gonna take a smaller brush. I'm gonna use this liner, and I'm gonna go get the burnt umber. With a very gentle hand, kind of a sketching hand. going back for more burnt umber. And I'm working with my hand up here toward the edge, which really does give me more freedom. And I'm just going to start putting in some of these reeds. Everything's rather wet, so it's still very soft. And I'm kind of comforted by that because at least I can feel my way into it. Still working in burnt umber. I'm going over here now. You can see now why we needed to do the water and the sky first. Because all this covers over it. You can also see what this brush will allow me to do. It allows me to make these very small marks, and then as I press, I can get something a little bolder. I think using a brush like this for something like this allows us to get comfortable with it. Still working in the burnt umber. I'm going to go get some Viridian and some permanent yellow. It gives me a pretty nice green, actually. And I'm going to go back in. To continue. And we'll just let it in right there.